So the other day, I finally switched my phone. I switched from iPhone to Android. I got myself a Samsung phone. This is the first Android phone I've ever had, and I could not be happier. There's a lot of really weird things that I have to get used to, just like weird changes, like, having a back button at the bottom of the screen instead of the top. And so there's like weird things like that you have to get used to. But I am so happy. I was getting so sick of iPhones. iPhones are so horrible with how they just don't do basic functions. That really bothers me. Like, that's what I had the iPhone 6S or 6 whatever, because like that was the last one with a headphone jack, right? And so I said, after this one stops working, I'm switching because I want a phone that has a headphone jack. And the thing about iPhones is they just don't do basic things that they need to do. This one, the reason I eventually had to trade it in or get rid of it was because it had some problem where it wasn't importing photos or videos onto my computer. And I've been trying to record some of these videos with my phone on occasion, and I recorded one. I recorded the one on top of my fridge. That's the one that I was recording, and I couldn't get it onto my computer for the longest time because every time I plugged it in, it would say no new photos recognized on this device, no new photos or videos recognized on this device, and I was like, what the hell? I also had about 1,000 photos that I needed to transfer to my computer that it just wasn't recognizing them. And I thought it was something wrong with Windows at first. Turns out it wasn't. I tried to do a bunch of fixes with my Windows, but it was this stupid phone, so I'm so glad I got rid of it. Anyway, the reason I bring it up, the reason I'm talking about this today is because the guy who helped me with this phone, I was making conversation with this guy at the store, the employee that was helping me get this phone and selling it to me, I guess. But I was making friendly conversation with him. He's like, "What do you do?" I say, "Well, I'm a YouTuber." And he's like, "Oh, what kind of videos do you make?" I say, I make videos about games, mostly this one game, League of Legends. And then he says, "Oh, I guess we're mortal enemies because I'm a big Dota 2 guy." And so we chatted about that for a little while. We talked about turn ratios and whatnot. But anyway, the reason I bring this up today is because League of Legends and Dota 2 are perfect games. They are perfect games in the sense that they are never going to be topped by another MOBA. And they're probably not going to be topped by any other game for a really long time. Now, when I say they're perfect games, I don't mean the day-to-day stuff is perfect. I've been complaining so much about League of Legends and their balance with like how they've been handling top lane. And we all know that there's broken shit in League. I'm sure there's plenty of broken shit in Dota. And there's top laners in Dota that aren't happy with how Dota top lane is. But as the games are structured, there is not something you can do to improve that, right? If that makes sense. In League of Legends and Dota 2, the games are perfect in the sense that you could not really change a fundamental element of the game and make it better. If you added a third boss monster to Summoner's Rift, I don't think that would make the game better. If you added another lane and you made it 6v6 in League of Legends, I don't think that would make it better. I don't think that there's anything you could do to change the format of how League of Legends is played or the map or any of the basics of the game like that to make it better. And that's really interesting because we're going to be stuck with League and Dota as being the best games ever for a while. You've had so many companies trying to, take a piece of the MOBA pie, so many companies trying to make their own MOBA with weird twists and turns and spins on the genre. And there have been some that have been really interesting, like Smite. I thought Smite would be a lot bigger than it is because it kind of caters to the old WoW style of PvP where you're behind the shoulder third-person view moving with WASD. That's kind of an interesting style of game, and I thought it would do much better than what it's kind of done, where it is still around and it's probably going to be around for a while, but it hasn't reached the same heights as League or Dota, obviously. And this is really interesting. This is really interesting because MOBAs are the biggest thing in the world right now still. And MOBAs are probably going to be the biggest thing in the world for many years to come. And the reason for it is because, everyone thinks about how MOBAs killed the RTS, and I don't really necessarily think that's the truth, because RTS games kind of killed themselves, and you just had players from RTS games move on to MOBAs. StarCraft 2, the thing that killed StarCraft 2 was Blizzard's handling of the property, not just that MOBAs were, so much better than it, because, the reasons you play StarCraft or the reasons you play an RTS are not the same reasons you would play a MOBA. But, MOBAs were this hot new esport that was taking over a lot of the RTS scene, where real-time strategy games just didn't seem to be as popular as they were anymore, and then a lot of the real-time strategy players just moved on to MOBAs. And you know, a lot of people, they say that MOBAs killed off the RTS for that reason. And whether you think there's any truth to that or not, that's sort of propped up the question that people have been asking for years now. What's going to kill the MOBA? Some people thought Overwatch would. Overwatch has not come anywhere close. I think right now Overwatch has like 35 million players. I don't know if that's total players or if that's monthly players, but League has like 70 million monthly players or something, right? Or last time they released stats on that, at least. Like Overwatch still has a really far ways to go if it wants to eclipse League just in player base, much less in the esports scene. So, you know, I don't really buy into the argument that a lot of people make that not only is Overwatch going to kill League of Legends, but that Overwatch is also like a MOBA unto itself. I don't really think it's a part of the genre, but even if you consider it as part of the genre, I mean, it kind of continues that point. I don't think that you can really change this formula in any way significantly enough where you're going to make it so much better that you're going to end up with, you know, another king of the mobile world. And the reason that this is so significant, I might have said that phrase a number of times in this video already, but the reason I think this is significant is because people ask, what's going to kill the MOBA, right? People ask what's going to be the next hot genre that gets rid of MOBAs in the same way the MOBAs got rid of RTS games. And I don't think that there's ever going to be anything, right? The next thing I can think of, the next big thing I can think of that could like change video games and could, you know, become a new genre that really explodes and ends up killing potentially popular genres right now, the only thing that comes to mind is possibly VR. And VR still feels like it's so far away from reaching any sort of mainstream success. Because, I mean, I don't have a Vive, HTC Vive, or, you know, any of those things. I don't have any VR device myself. But it seems like it has such a high barrier to entry to even get into it, right? You have to get this headset. You have to, like, set up cameras all around your room. And then you play, like, these weird little games, right? You don't play a complicated strategy game that... It still feels like VR is in the infancy of its development, and we're still years away from having any significant main AAA release on a VR system. And quite often, not having big releases on systems like that is what kills a system, right? Like, think about the Wii U. Think about the Wii U. Think about the, what was it? The Virtual Boy? Was that the Nintendo VR attempt way back in whenever? When you think about a lot of old game systems, or the Dreamcast, honestly, when you think about a lot of old game systems, or the GameCube, when you think about a lot of old game systems that end up failing, a lot of the time what ends up contributing to their failure in not selling enough units or not becoming a popular enough thing is they end up in this really weird vicious cycle where, you know, there's not a lot of units sold, so people don't want to make games for it. So when people aren't making games for it, there's not going to be people buying the units. And then when there aren't any units sold, people are going to continue not making games for it. I mean, this is one of the things with the PlayStation Vita. I actually bought a PlayStation Vita for Persona 4 Golden, and I played through Persona 4 Golden. I played through the Gravity game. I played through a lot of games on my PS Vita, and honestly, that was maybe one of the best systems I've ever had. The PlayStation Vita is actually a marvel in how insanely fun it is. It gives you it gives you an experience like you're playing a console in the palm of your hand with the portability convenience. I sound like I'm selling you a PS Vita. But the thing about the PS Vita that was so interesting is that it was this amazing console that was maybe the most technically proficient and enjoyable handheld system in the world. It was a lot more comfortable to hold than the 3DS. It had a decent number of like okay games at first, stuff like Persona 4 Golden. But the problem with the PS Vita was, people wouldn't make exclusive games for it. And when people wouldn't make exclusive games for it, then nobody would buy PS Vitas because there weren't good games on it. And so, you get into that vicious cycle of people not making games. And I think that's something that's going to happen to VR if we don't see really big, exciting system-selling games coming out on it anytime soon. And if we don't have VR overtaking MOBAs, if we don't have VR overtaking any of the popular genres right now in traditional gaming, then I don't see what's ever going to come over or what's ever going to come up and just destroy MOBAs in the way that a lot of people think that one day MOBAs will fall, or that one day League of Legends or Dota 2 or any of these popular games will fall. I don't think that's going to happen. honestly. I mean, I think we're really far away. If we ever see League of Legends or Dota 2 decline, it's going to see a decline in an esports sense. It's going to see a decline in an esports sense because maybe people get sick of the League competitive scene and they want to go watch the Counter-Strike competitive scene, or maybe the Overwatch competitive scene. I kind of think Overwatch is kind of a bit of a joke esport. Sorry, Overwatch fans. But, you know, Overwatch has some problems with its esports scene. Have they had big tournaments or anything? I never see it on, like, the top front page of Twitch or anything. Maybe, you know, they have that whole league system with, like, teams all around the world. That sounds really exciting, but, like, as a game, it doesn't seem, I'm going off on a tangent here, but you know, if we ever see League or Dota get toppled, it's just going to be in an esports sense when we see Super Smash Bros. Melee or Counter-Strike or whatever popular esport eclipse it on Twitch and maybe become regularly more popular than it on Twitch. But you can't really find a lot of the enjoyment that you get in League of Legends in another kind of game. And the same can probably be said for Dota. I say probably only because I have not played Dota for more than like 20 minutes 3 years ago. So at the end of the day, I don't know. I think League is a great game. And I mean, one of the reasons I feel the need to make this video is because people always complain about it, right? Myself included. I just got done making like a number of videos for a number of months complaining about, oh, top lane's so awful. Oh, bruisers need to be better. Oh, this champion's so OP. Oh, this champion's so boring. People complain about the game a lot, but what people don't really talk about enough, in my opinion, is, well, I mean, it's kind of a boring thing to talk about, so maybe there's a reason people don't talk about it, but the game is good, right? Like, the game is really good. It's really good on a fundamental level. There are a lot of things in League of Legends that we all take for granted, but that make the game insanely fun. And that's why we're able to play it for like 7 years straight without ever taking a break. Like, it is a very, very fun game on, I mean, as close to objectively speaking as you can possibly get. And that's the reason why it's become such a popular thing. Now, not everybody has the desire to play a competitive game. Not everybody likes playing multiplayer video games. A lot of people like single-player games. A lot of people like more relaxing experiences when they're playing games. But if you're looking for the kind of competitive experience that an esport and that a popular multiplayer game can give you, League of Legends and Dota 2 are the pinnacle of that. And I don't think that's ever going to change. For better or worse, we're kind of stuck with these games for a while. And that you can look at that in a positive way or a negative way, but when you're talking about the future of games, I think we're going to be stuck with this for a while.